Meanwhile, House Republicans are unveiling 2 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. They did so yesterday. They're accusing him of, quote, refusal to comply with the law and breach of public trust. The House Homeland Security Committee expected to mark up these and vote on the resolution tomorrow. I spoke with New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik about the Mayorkas impeachment on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday. Watch.
This is very important, as House Republicans are the last line of defense, and we're holding the Biden administration and Joe Biden accountable for the catastrophe at our southern border. Our committee chair, Mark Green of Homeland Security, has done a tremendous job and has shown to the American people that there has been a willful and refusal to comply with the law and an abuse of power in the position as Secretary of Homeland Security. You have a wide open border. It is the #1 issue for Americans across the country, and it's not just the border states, Maria, who are impacted. It's my home state of New York as well. Every state is a border state. And I think what's most telling is Democrats are refusing to hold Joe Biden accountable for this border crisis that Joe Biden and his cabinet have created.
Joining me right now is former federal prosecutor, former acting ICE director, and former DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary Jonathan Fahey. Jonathan, thanks very much for being here. The numbers are just disastrous. More than 300,000 people apprehended in the month of December alone, compared to 405,000 in the entire year of the Trump administration's final year. We've gone from a very secure border to a complete open-ended situation. Your assessment?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a complete and utter catastrophe. And it is, as the Elise Stefanik said, this has been willful. Remember, Biden campaigned on basically an open border, and they've implemented in every respect. Everything they have done has been to undermine law enforcement, prevent any law enforcement whatsoever. They've been willing to lie repeatedly, lie about their own agents. And this is long overdue to impeach Mayorkas, because this is an utter and complete catastrophe. Yeah. And everyone knows it's deliberate, because if it wasn't, this administration would ask him to step down for being incompetent. But they are thrilled with what he's doing, because they want as many illegal immigrants to come into the country as possible.
You know what's unbelievable to me is that when lawmakers say every state is a border state, what they mean by that is that you've got illegal migrants going into every state and committing crimes and putting people at risk. This has become a national security issue. I spoke with the Lieutenant Governor of Texas yesterday, Dan Patrick. Listen to this. This was an issue that the Biden administration self-inflicted on this country. Why?
This border issue is #1 because fentanyl is crossing that border and killing more Americans than any other issue between 18 and 45. Because we have women being raped, we have children being put into sex slavery, we have murderers, we have molesters, we have gang members, we have drug dealers, we have carjackers, we have kidnappers, all crossing with these millions of people. And he is wrong on this issue. He doesn't care. America has to understand their agenda is they don't care if people die if they make their goal. And what is their goal? To put millions of people into this country, one day turn them into citizens, and one day turn them into voters and take over the country.
Jonathan, why aren't senators, Republican senators, saying, no, it's the end of the line. Go back to the Trump policies, put Remain in Mexico, put all of those policies that you overturned when you walked into the Oval Office back in place, or nothing. Instead, you've got Senate negotiators saying a vote on this bipartisan border deal is coming as early as next week. They want to finish up the bill's text now. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the deal would require Border Patrol agents remove migrants only if encounters reach a daily average of 5,000 a week or 8,500 in a single day. What? The president would also have the option to act as a daily average of 4,000 encounters a week, and the border could not reopen for migrants until the level was 75% below the trigger number for over 2 weeks. I mean, we already have 10 million illegals in on Joe Biden's watch. Why can't Republicans just hold the line? Isn't that enough?
Yeah, exactly. I really think these Republican negotiators, to the extent they're acting in good faith, are totally missing the plot here, because this has been a 3-year movie, and everyone knows it's deliberate. So this idea that the fix is a legislative fix really plays into Biden's hands. We all know that the problem is a lack of enforcement, and you're exactly right. We can go right back to he has every tool he needs to enforce the border, but now, President Biden, I think, says he'll sign sign what they give him. Of course he'll sign what he gives them because he doesn't care. He's not going to enforce the law. And even this $5,000 a day, which basically condones what's been going on, but this idea that he'll enforce it above $5,000 is ridiculous because he still won't. We have to rely and trust him to enforce it, and they have not enforced the law to this point. So again, this is really a bizarre negotiation. I wonder where the American people were at the negotiating table, because it seems like the illegal immigrants are well represented, the Democrats are well represented, drug cartels, human traffickers, they're well represented, but the American people are always left out in the cold, and they pay the price on public safety, public health. We see what's going on in New York, and no one cares. And certainly this administration doesn't care, and they will let the American people suffer to no end to advance this open borders agenda.
Liz Peek, jump in here, but first, let's listen to what Joe Biden had to say about this deal being negotiated this weekend. Watch this.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. A bipartisan bill would be good for America and help fix our broken immigration system and allow speedy access for those who deserve to be here. And Congress needs to get it done.
So now he's blaming Congress, Liz. Look, let's be clear. If he wanted to shut down the border, he would not have redone agreements with Honduras, Guatemala, and all of the other Central American countries there, and Mexico. He did not. He overturned what Trump did.
Well, I think Jonathan has it exactly right. He doesn't want to close the border, and they haven't done it, and this agreement won't do it, which is kind of astonishing to me. But I want to ask Jonathan, it seems to me like the House has an absolute slam dunk impeachment case against Mayorkas going back to the Secure Fence Act of 2006, where he is supposed to have operational control of the border and preventing illegal entries of terrorists and other groups. There have been dozens of terror watch list people come across the border and other illegals. This seems like easy terrain to me. What do you think?
Yeah, he should absolutely be impeached because, one, he's not doing his job, but also this is willful. And when you get back to the lies of Secretary Mayorkas and this administration, their lies don't even make sense, and they contradict each other. On one hand, these are asylum seekers that are supposedly fleeing torture and persecution, yet we never talk about who's persecuting these millions of people. That would be something they might be curious about. And then on the other hand, these are people fleeing climate catastrophe in Central America, but when they get interviewed, no one ever talks about they left because the weather is bad. It's so beyond absurd, and we allow I don't think Secretary Mayorkas, in all fairness to him, doesn't even know what's true anymore. He just says these things that are utter and complete nonsense. He talks in euphemisms and platitudes. These are non-citizens. This is irregular migration. It's considered slander to call them illegal aliens, yet they can call every American that says anything about it racist, xenophobic, the worst horrible things, but you got a hands off. You cannot say an unkind word about people that break our law, create a national security risk. We're not allowed to say a darn thing about it. It's a disgrace.
This could not be more serious. Now, a group of former FBI officials sent a letter to congressional leadership on January 17th with a stark warning about what they're calling imminent danger that Biden's border policies pose to the United States. Here's what these former FBI guys write. Military-aged men from across the globe, many from countries or regions not friendly to the United States, are landing in waves on our soil by the thousands, not by splashing ashore from a ship or parachuting from a plane, but rather by foot across a border that has been accurately advertised around the world as largely unprotected. New Customs and Border Protection numbers show there were 19 more migrants arrested at the southern border on the terrorist watch list in December. 19. That brings the total number of people who are on the terrorist watch list to 49 for this fiscal year, Jonathan. We don't know we don't know who's getting in, who hasn't been apprehended. It took 19 of them to take down the trade centers. We've got 49 for the fiscal year.
Yeah, you're exactly right on your point is we don't know actually who has gotten in and how many people on their terror watch list got in this got-away world where they don't go through a point of entry. And it's probably a staggering number. And everyone knows if they want to come in to harm us, it's quite easy. And again, this administration puts open borders ahead of our national security. It is truly amazing. It is so disgraceful. But they're not going to stop. They're going to play a little game with the Senate bill, but this will continue.
Stunning. Jonathan, thank you very much for your insights on all of that. We appreciate your time this morning. Jonathan Fahey.